begins as the next group of cars are forward, with Andrew Markland on pole position for this next race, ahead of Andy Scott, and now they line up, ready for the next heat. 66 Mad Mark Watson and 35 Mike Manning. Drivers look towards the lights, and when they blink green, we'll be in business, and Paul Swift makes a good start then from pole position, but so too does the man that won at Lyndon, Lance Foster, with the green and white spares Mini, and right round the outside tries to go Barry Stewart in the Porsche. They dive down towards Clairvaux then for the first time of asking who turns in ahead. It's the Porsche. So two-wheel drive cars, but Barry Stewart leads the way. Paul Swift is second, and then local man Lance Foster with the green and white Mini spares Mini running in third place, and that, as we've seen in the past, is a very quick car, and in fact in slippery conditions it may well have an even better chance than normal. So ex-autograsser Lance Foster, with this car built in period by Ian Sandwith, comes third onto the loose part of the circuit, but it's the Porsche that leads the way. Paul Swift's Escort Mark II is second, but slows a little. Lance Foster tries to get the drag up alongside him as they come down towards the hairpin for the first time. Takes you right back, this, doesn't it? The whole point of the concept of the category. Ron Nielsen's Porsche from period in its pseudo Rothmans colours now, with Barry Stewart at the wheel, leads the way, but Paul Swift is in second place. Third is Foster, fourth and all sideways Ray Morgan's Mark III Escort. Then you've got Mark Griffin in the Mark I Fiesta, and Lance Foster runs out wide, and the leader has got problems as well, because Barry Stewart slows and Paul Swift goes ahead of him as they work their way onto the tarmac. Then suddenly Paul Swift finds a bit of traction, the power kicks in, and the back of the Escort wags going down towards Clairvaux, but having got himself ahead of Barry Stewart now, the Escort has managed to pull away. So the cars are working their way up towards the right-hander over at Hawthorne. There's a battle on for third place as well, because Lance Foster is coming back at Ray Morgan. The little Mini trying to scuttle right round the outside here, and eventually runs out of road. But Paul Swift leads the way. Escort Mark II's plastered across the history of Rallycross, of course, and it is one of those cars leading the way. But there's a great battle on for second. Barry Stewart ahead of Ray Morgan, and then you've got Mini versus Fiesta, with just Lance Foster keeping at bay Mark Griffin. Retro Rallycross, a big hit with fans, big hit with the drivers. You can see why as well, because it perfectly encapsulates how it was in the 80s. These cars all built before 1982. Paul Swift's 1978 Ford Escort then comes through in the lead. Ian Biaggi's Mini has run way wide, heading down towards the hairpin, and again heading back towards the tarmac. Barry Stewart's Porsche falters. That gives Ray Morgan now the chance to get up alongside him. Through he has gone, and so as the cars turn now up to Hawthorne, it is Paul Swift who leads the way. The Escort then up front, very, very sideways, as you would anticipate from a man with a stunt driving background, auto test champion as well as rally champion, and Paul Swift is looking good then at the moment for honours as he comes onto the loose part of the circuit. He's being pursued by, in second place, the Escort in the hands of Ray Morgan. Now what about third? This rather incongruous battle of a Porsche versus a Mini as they come down towards the hairpin, of course where the power kicks in, so the Porsche is able to pull away, but as they work their way now down through the hairpin, under braking, so Lance Foster is able to close up a little bit more. Now Barry Stewart, as they come over the timing point, tends to struggle. We've got Ian Biaggi's Mini way off, coming onto the loose and finding all the big puddles. So Swift from Morgan, Mark II Escort from Mark III Escort is the way that the order stands. In third place is Barry Stewart, who this time is drama-free, going down towards Clairvaux as he comes off the loose and back onto the tarmac. This time the car maintains momentum, and at the back of the field, coming into the hairpin now, is Ian Biaggi in the 55 Mini, keeping out of trouble at the hairpin, but he's already lost a chunk of time from the hairpin of a lap ago, and also the S is coming onto the loose, the chicane, and that's exactly now where the Barry Stewart Porsche is under attack once more from Lance Foster. But the race leader is heading down towards the hairpin. It's going to be a win, isn't it, for Paul Swift? Then the checkered flag is being prepared, and it will be the flag this time then for car number 8, Paul Swift, who leads the way. In second place, number 14, Ray Morgan, up from the back of the grid. He will hang on to second place. Now what about third? Can Barry Stewart in the Porsche survive ahead of the Mini of Lance Foster? Yes, he can. So it's going to be Stewart for third, fourth is Foster, fifth the 6R4 storms away from everybody else, and Rob Gibson, I suspect, is now set to give you a demonstration drive. Go back to the mid-1980s. His Porsche versus the Escort of John Welch used to have some tremendous battles across the country, rather physical at times it used to be, but Rob, vastly experienced driver, and when Group B cars came into British Rallycross, he was one of the first to get his hands on a 6R4, and it's been well maintained, it's been well driven, and now he leads the way as the cars work their way now onto the loose for the first time. So behind him, Ashley Davis with the Peugeot 205 is the best of the rest, but Rob Gibson has run out wide, coming onto the loose, and he finds the water splash there, the impromptu water splash, and the 6R4 did not like that very much at all. It has picked up a little bit of pace, but not a huge amount, and so as the cars work their way then for the first time down to the hairpin, Rob Gibson is leading the way, and in second place is Ash Davis, and then all sideways in third is the Astra of Dave Black, I think that is, number 56, yes it is. In fourth place you've got Paul Smith in the G40 shaped Polo ahead of Jim Black, and then Tony Hurst having his first rallycross experience, although he's done quite a bit of circuit, caught up in all the ruts and all the water that's standing on the side of the track. Down he comes towards the hairpin, the Metro 6R4, the Patrick Head design car effectively leads the way, and with limited visibility, with a very muddy windscreen, Rob Gibson heads the pack. The 6R4s, of course, built by Austin Rover to take on the best in Group B rallying, only to discover that A, they weren't as competitive as hoped, and B, the stretches the advantage in the 6R4. He comes down towards the hairpin, up towards the end of his third lap, and as long as he doesn't put a wheel wrong, should be good for the victory here. It's the only four-wheel drive car within this group, and so the Metro, there are plenty more for the victory. Very, very limited view he's got out of the front of the car, the wiper not moving, and there's just about enough to peer through, but what he can't do is put the washers on because the wiper won't work seemingly, and that's, I think, the real problem here. The visibility has gone against him, but it's still a win for number 5, Rob Gibson. In second is 380. As he gets to the back, we'll have the green flag shown to the drivers, and then the 5-second board will be displayed. So, engine notes now rise. James Ross, ex-junior rallycrosser himself, on pole position in the Escort WRC. The lights go out, the race underway, and JJ Ross leads them down towards Clairvaux then. He's done junior rallycross, he's done junior Fiesta racing. His father, Bob Ross, former TVR Tusk. Sean Hollenby, winner of the Jack Sears Trophy in one of the 3 races at Brands Hatch a week ago in his touring car Golf, making his rallycross debut in the car with which Tony Lynch won the mini championship yesterday. End of lap 1, it's going to be JJ Ross that leads the way. Brian Duke's getting all physical, comes barging his way up on the inside of Gareth Softly, but coming back at him is Craig Lomax. Down they come, sideways gets Lomax, can he hang on to it? He goes left and right. Brian Dukes gets us already perilous angles in third in the Audi TT as well, and then dives up the inside of Sean Hollenby and just completely runs out of road. Then he's almost back on the pit straight, which he just touches with one wheel. He's got so much lock and so little grip, he's heading back to the track and has carved his way across the grass. He's still ahead as the drivers get the green lights now, and away they go, with the better start being made by Mal Boyd's very quick Toyota MR2 from the outside of the front row as the cars accelerate off down towards Clairvaux for the first time. Then Gary Dixon trying to go with him, and Gary Simpson, winner of the B final for Super Nationals yesterday, he's got enough grunt to stay ahead of him, but heading down to the hairpin, what can Dixon do then? They get towards the braking area, heading into the corner now, there's no gap on the inside, Mal Boyd has got that covered. In third place, Gary Simpson coming under attack from Jack Thorne, and make a move against him as they come then down towards the hairpin. Gary Dixon hasn't given up either in third place, and Thorne is closing, but so is Dixon in the Astra as well. He's sideways as they get to the braking zone. Checkered flag at the ready. Is it going to be the MR2 that hangs on? There's contact as they try to avoid the tyres, but number 69, Mal Boyd, is just going to be the race winner. Jack Thorne, 33, takes second ahead of number 2, Gary Dixon, in fourth. Side of row 1, green flag shown at the back. Our first look at the supercars of the day. 5-second board is shown, 5 laps in prospect as the lights go out and away they go, and the best start made seemingly from Jos Janssen for the outside of the front row. Alan Tapscott, the only 2-wheel drive man on the grid, loses out. Mike Manning, I think in the Puma, gets sideways in the mid-pack as they go down now towards Clairvaux. Andy Scott leads the way from Anton Markland, and then it's Janssen in third place as the cars head up towards the right-hander of Hawthorne for the first time. So it is the Peugeot that leads the way, runs out a little bit wide. Anton Markland is going to try to fight back as the cars work their way onto the loose part of the circuit once again, and as they do so, the Albertech Peugeot leads the way, but can Markland do anything about the race leader? Andy Scott won the A final yesterday, and he's building the advantage now. In third place is Janssen ahead of Manning, both of whom have just had windscreens absolutely full of mud, so they're struggling for visibility as they come now down towards the hairpin. Manning has run out of road on the outside, and Scott gets all sideways then. Almost up alongside him comes Anton Markland in the Volkswagen Polo as they come across the loose. Janssen is third, Manning is fourth, fifth is Mad Mark, sixth is Steve Mundy, seventh is Steve Harris, eighth is Tapscott. Leaders then back onto the tarmac, and side by side almost down to Clairvaux. Having a look on the inside line there was Markland. They're very sideways. Andy Scott gets it all crossed up. He hangs on to it, and in fact I think has also been able to build the advantage out of all of that, but he really flung the car into the corner. Andy, who has really benefited from taking part in Rallycross RX this year on a much grander scale, but won the British Championship A final at Knock Hill, won yesterday as well. And Anton Markland then in the polo, damaged in the A final yesterday when he clashed with Julian Godfrey. He is second and gets very sideways, and in strife is Jos Janssen, whose car I think was drowned coming onto the loose. So Mike Manning is now up into third place. Meantime, Andy Scott leads the way, but Anton Markland is not that far behind him. Mike Manning runs third in the Puma. And then for fourth place, as they come down towards the hairpin, it is Steve Mundy. We didn't see him racing yesterday. He's ahead of Mad Mark, whose Citroen has had a fairly bruising weekend, and it's lost more front bodywork again now. He's ahead of Steve Harris though in the multicoloured Focus, but not for long, because Steve Harris comes up alongside him as they go back onto tarmac. Citroen on the inside. Mad Mark's had this car for 7 seasons now, he knows it inside out, and Steve Harris tries to go around the outside, runs out of road, gets crossed up. Citroen stays ahead. Leaders come now onto the loose. Andy Scott, in about the only clean car in the race by dint of being up front, leads the way as they come then now onto the approach to the hairpin, and under braking, Anton Markland starts to bring down the gap as well. So they come now over the timing line. This will be the end of lap number 3. Scott it is up front, Markland chasing after him, and the gap between the pair of them on that lap has gone up again. Although Markland has just done a personal best lap, he's not yet matching a Scott pace. Very sideways Focus, and Steve Harris arrives on the scene, fending off Mad Mark. Mike Manning in the meantime, returning to Rallycross after a hill climb season, always goes strongly around here. The Welshman is third, ahead of Steve Mundy, and then Harris versus Watson with Alan Tapscott, showing the perils or the dramas you can have with two-wheel drive. And a spin for Markland over coming out of Hawthorns, and there's a lot of smoke involved in all of that as well. I think that's more than a spin. Has he got a mechanical problem? I think he has. Has that put any liquid down on the road? Oh dear, it was damaged yesterday, but Anton Markland quickly out of the car, and that I fear is mechanical, and I do hope that that doesn't put him out for the rest of the day, because the Swede is one of the real stars of Rallycross RX, and he's been giving a good account of himself all weekend as Andy Scott then goes across the line, but he's heading for a rather easy win now. Mike Manning in second place as the cars work their way out of the hairpin. For third, it is the Focus in the hands of Steve Mundy. As I was saying earlier on, he didn't race yesterday, but he's not showing any rustiness, is he, out of all of this? He's going very strongly in that third place, and then fourth is Harris ahead of Mad Mark. So the race leader is Andy Scott. He is making his way now onto the loose, and as he does so, we've got another cloud of smoke, and that's Steve Mundy. Oh no, Mike Manning's Puma, yes, down at Clairvaux. The Puma ahead of Steve Mundy's Focus, and so although I can see smoke, I thought it was from a different Ford. It is the Puma that has now got dramas. Oh dear, supercars in strife. As 26, Andy Scott takes the heat win. In the end, it turns out to be a lot easier than anticipated, and the survivors are going to be headed, I think, by 52 Steve Mundy. He will come through next. And then behind, it's going to be 88 Steve Harris, so the Focus group will be second and third. Those two cars then, 52 Steve Mundy, 88 Steve Harris. Mad Mark, again, having incurred some damage, number 66, is going to be fourth, and Alan Tapscott takes fifth place. But as I say, we lost Anton Markland, and then we also lost 35 Mike Manning, so that's not good news. 3 supercars retire, and we need as many as we can have, of course, for the rest of the day. They are the next heat will be the last heat in the first round, and number 1, Julian Godfrey, is going to be on pole position. Number 1, Julian Godfrey pole. Number 10, Kevin Proctor, will be in the middle of the front row, and 22, Mark Scott on the outside, 16, which is Ash Simpson. Alongside him, 46, Pat Duran, who we missed. The grid lines up for the faced by the green lights, they blast away, and a good start made by Mark Scott from the outside of row 1, but Godfrey from pole position is going to have the lead down towards Clairvaux, or is he? Because Kevin Proctor is right up behind him as they dive down to the right-hander, turn their way through. Godfrey ahead of Proctor, ahead of Scott, and Pat Duran is fourth from the back of the grid. Derek Jobb has gone a little bit wide, and that's going to compromise his run on the way up towards Hawthorn for the first time. But the race leader then is Julian Godfrey. He's converted, perhaps not surprisingly, pole position into the lead. But Kev the Rev, Kevin Proctor, is going with him as the cars hit the loose for the first time. Mark Scott, who went really well yesterday, is third. And Pat Duran's Citroen DS3 is fourth and dropping away, in fact, as he tries to adapt to the loose.
Down towards the hairpin, Proctor with his Croft knowledge, trying to use that to advantage and close on Godfrey, who goes wide. Proctor shoves his nose up the inside line. Can he grab the lead? Coming out of the corner, they touch. Godfrey stays ahead. Proctor tries to switch sides then as they go over the timing line at the end of lap 1. It is still Godfrey ahead. Proctor is second. Third, Mark Scott. Fourth is Pat Duran. Fifth, it is Andy Grant. In sixth is Derek Job. And then the Super Nationals, the two-wheel drive cars, headed by Ash Simpson, ahead of Mike Boak in the Audi TT. Well, Julian Godfrey had a real scare then coming through the hairpin because Proctor was halfway up alongside him, but now the Fiesta with ace engine builder Julian Godfrey at the helm comes out of the chicane in the lead. Now, is that lead extending? It was a little bit, but Proctor is always absolute dynamite across the loose, and it's happening again because he's trying to bring down that gap. Mark Scott in the ex-Will Gollop helmet Holfeld Peugeot is there in third place, and again Proctor closes up coming into the hairpin. Can he get a tighter line and close on the Fiesta when he gets back onto the power? Only by a little. Scott runs in third place. Fourth, it is Pat Duran ahead of the Focus in the hands of Andy Grant, and then Derek Jobs' Escort next up with Ash Simpson heading the two-wheel drive Super National Brigade as the leaders then go down to Clairvaux once more. It is still them up front and looking strong. Julian Godfrey, he has now done the fastest lap of the day, so he's continuing to pull away from Kevin Proctor. He's lapping quicker by dint of having a clear view, being the first man out there, than anybody else, and he's coming onto the loose, but can he survive? He, earlier on in the day, got himself a bit crossed up and damaged the front of the car. He comes then now onto the loose section with Kevin Proctor once again showing his speed on that part of the circuit. Proctor turns right through checkers, comes into the hairpin, brakes hard, and Mark Scott also closing up on that part of the circuit. Proctor two sideways though, and that means that he gets the car back into a straight line, so Godfrey's pulled the gap out again by about 3 lengths as they go over the timing line now at the end of 3 laps. So the gap extends. Ash Simpson is off the road in the Lotus Exige though, coming out of the chicane, so car 16, Ash Simpson, we have lost on the far side of the circuit. Meantime, Godfrey and Proctor, I would suggest, are a little bit closer to one another than they were a lap ago, and Kevin Proctor now is once again mounting a real challenge. This could be a prelude to what we have in the Grand Prix, you never know, but as they come through nose to tail, Proctor is sideways and he's gone far, far, far too wide, and that's going to give Mark Scott a chance in the Peugeot. Here he comes up alongside. Proctor was second, he's now down to third, but he comes back at Scott on the inside and retakes the place then. Kevin Proctor, he's not going to take that line down, so Julian Godfrey has a much bigger advantage now as he works his way out of the hairpin. But Kevin Proctor is still there in second place despite the very best efforts of Mark Scott. The two of them running together. Pat Duran is fourth in the Citroën. Proctor in second place and Mark Scott third. He's not going to get near enough unless Proctor makes a mistake down at the hairpin. Julian Godfrey then, he's going to come through to score victory in the final race. In the first heat, he comes up towards the checkered flag, so Godfrey wins. Proctor is second in number 10. Third is 22, Mark Scott. Once again, Shaggy's adapting well to these cars, and Pat Duran is in strife at the hairpin. He runs out wide, almost comes to a dead stop, but he had enough time in hand over Andy Grant to be fourth. So 46, Pat Duran takes fourth place. Fifth is number 3, Andy Grant, and sixth will be 77, Derek Job, with 7th, number 81, Mike Boak, for one retirement, being at 16, Ash Simpson.